Somebody called and said, is Donald Trump the Antichrist? And it stirred up quite a conversation. And so yesterday afternoon when I got home, Louise and I were planning what shall we write for our daily rant tomorrow for HartmannReport.com. And, I said, this got a lot more attention than I thought it would. I was actually surprised that as many people wanted to weigh in on it. And so, let's put it out as an idea. Is Donald Trump the Antichrist? And you can take this one of two ways, right? You can either take it literally, and, is he the guy described in Revelation or described elsewhere in the Bible? Is he the father of lies? Is he actually that guy? And of course, people called in yesterday with suggestions, and some folks have even added on Twitter. MAGA, for example, in Latin and multiple other languages means magic or sorcerer. His grandfather's name was Drumpf, D-R-U-M-P-F, which has 6 letters. John is Johann in German, 6 letters, so his actual name would be Donald Johann Drumpf, 666, just like Ronald Wilson Reagan. He armed the Saudis for their bombing war against Yemen that now has 5 million people facing famine as the Saudis are blocking food arrivals. His family owns 666 Fifth Avenue. He fooled millions of evangelical followers of Jesus, just as the beast was supposed to have done. He put his own red hat MAGA mark on his followers' foreheads. He consorts with, quote, whores and criminals, end quote. That's kind of the biblical take, and maybe you want to add to that. But when you consider the secular take, what is the Antichrist in secular terms? It is basically the personification of evil. And just, Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, he spoke in the plural, actually. He said, false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravening wolves. He warned his followers of that. So, and he said, how do you know them? He said, by their fruits you shall know them. So Trump's fruits are pretty obvious. I mean, over 20 women have accused him of rape and sexual assault. Hundreds of contractors, customers, and employees have accused him of stealing from stealing from them, as have members of his own family. He lied over 30,000 times just during the 4 years of his presidency. He pit Americans against each other by race, by religion, by region in an effort to tear our country apart and strengthen his authoritarian rule. He openly encouraged violence against unarmed people at multiple rallies and encouraged state violence at a speech to chiefs of police. He tried to overthrow and end our democracy. He embraced murderers, kleptocrats, and strongman rulers while ridiculing Western democracies and their elected leaders. He tried to damage or dismantle the political and military systems designed to keep peace in the world, including the United Nations, NATO, and the JCPOA, the Iran deal. He reaches out to Jesus' followers and then directs them toward bigotry, violence, and hatred. As an object of admiration and as a role model, Trump has replaced Jesus in many white evangelical congregations. He delighted in tearing children from their parents and putting them in cages. He tried to end Americans' access to life-saving medical care by killing Obamacare and privatizing Medicare. He watched on TV like a delighted child as his followers killed a police officer, sent 140 others to the hospital, and tried to murder the Vice President and Speaker of the House. And he lied about COVID after disclosing the truth to Bob Woodward back in February 2 years ago, causing a disease and deaths in America worse than any other nation on earth. I think the bottom line, is really Matthew 25. And in my op-ed today, I quote from it at some length, where Jesus said, in the last days, he was going to divide the sheep from the goats, and the sheep would go with him to heaven, and the goats would go to hell. And his disciples were like, well, how do we get to be the sheep? And he says, I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. And at that point, his disciples freaked out and said, and I quote, when saw we thee hungered and fed thee, or thirsty and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger and took you in, or naked and clothed you? When did we see you sick or in prison and came to you? And Jesus says, Inasmuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me. This is the essence of Christianity. It's the essence of every major religion in the world. And it is the exact opposite. This one place in the Bible, Matthew 25, where Jesus lays out for his disciples the one way to get to hang out with him in heaven. It is the exact opposite of everything Donald Trump has stood for his whole entire life and continues to politically. It is quite literal. I mean, it's very straightforward. Feed the hungry, care for refugees, house and clothe the homeless, heal the sick, have compassion on those in prison. That's what the Bible says. That's what Christ says. You know, to be Christ-like, you must do. Well, if you're doing the opposite, you would be Anti-Christ-like, right? So, anyhow, I'm not sure that he's a spiritual Antichrist. I think that there are dark spiritual forces that surround him. But I think in a secular term, if we're using the term Antichrist to describe someone who embodies evil or evil behavior, or bad behavior, shall we say, I think Trump certainly qualifies. What say you?